So I want to start at the beginning with the story of the founder, because I think we can all admit that McDonald's has touched all of our lives in some way. So for the producers, I'm curious, how did the story of Ray Kroc find its way to you, and what made you initially see it as a movie?
About 12 years ago, I heard a song by Mark Knopfler called Boom Like That, and I was fascinated by the song. And I remembered as a kid this sort of being in McDonald's with one of my family members and seeing this bronze plaque that said Ray Kroc, founder of McDonald's, and there was just a cognitive dissonance that sort of stood with me, like, how did a Ray Kroc create McDonald's? And I heard this song. Jeremy and I had started our company, and we had a conversation about it because I tried to option some books, and when we called the publisher basically said, call McDonald's. Like, McDonald's had purchased the rights to these books and I think buried the authors in cement. So Jeremy's like, this is a great idea. We got to find a way to do it. And I was Googling late one night and found that they had, when they left McDonald's, they were going to start a motel chain like Motel 6 that was going to, way ahead of its time, like 20 years ahead of its time. So they actually had a piece of a motel in Massachusetts. I called the motel, said, hey, my name's Don Hanfield. I'm producing part of Jeremy Renner. Want to do a movie about McDonald's? Do they own a piece of this motel? And they're like, he's like, yeah, they do. As the night manager or something. He's like, I'll take your name and number, and I'll see if they'll get back to you. And a day or two later, Jason French called me back and said, we've been waiting 50 years for someone to call and tell our story, and you're the first one who's found us. And he was just really excited and gracious, and that really just unlocked a treasure trove of information that they had. They had archival letters, dictaphone recordings of the Kroc family of Ray Kroc talking to the McDonald's brothers and them sending that back and forth, and it just kind of launched from there.
And for the other producers, I'm curious, even before you got this trove of information from the French brothers, what made you see this as a movie, and what did you think the story would be?
Well, for our own part, when Don and Jeremy brought the idea over to us at Film Nation, we all kind of had this meeting. We were thinking, why is the founder of McDonald's named Kroc? And that always kind of, there's a question, and the movie obviously answers it. But you think about something that has a large branding like McDonald's, and that's a big leap up when you're creating that pre-existing awareness. And as a producer, that's enticing. And it's just one of those. It's a movie about America, and it feels like a movie about capitalism. And as John Lee Hancock says, it's kind of like Death of a Salesman with a very different ending.
A happy ending, I guess. And Jeremy, what about for you?
Yeah, to me it was, for me, it was a movie that is already the story's already told itself, and I always look for, especially with Don, what is the the world that this story is told in. I feel like we tell the same sort of Greek mythological stories over and over again, and I think this is definitely one of them. But the world is really interesting, and it's a world that we already know. It's it's McDonald's. It's kind of emblazoned all across the world, and so that made it kind of, okay, this needs to be on the big screen. And then I love stories where there's a lot of gray. And this couldn't be more gray in this movie when you have a hero that's flawed, which I love, and then you have an anti-heroes that you find sympathy, or you understand, or the reasons for their doing. So there's a lot of gray within that. It's not just black and white. And also to our writer and our directors, what they've done with not force-feeding any sort of particular value or moral or righteousness onto the audience. It just kind of spells it out. It's like, then you can kind of choose what you think about capitalism and morality and capitalism. That grayness is just sexy to me. I love it.
And I'm sorry, but I have to ask, because you're a pretty good actor. So when you find a project like this, was it always going to be just as a producer? Was there a time you considered taking a role in it?
Well, I always consider playing every role in everything, but I never, considered the sense of me actually doing it. As far as developing each character, and you want every character to be strong and not just be a device to tell the story. And that's sort of my part creatively in the output of the movie. I can't. There's guys that are much better at that stuff than I am. Look at what we have here at this table, and so yeah. I'm so glad we got the guys we got.
So Jason, I'm surprised to hear that you hadn't gotten calls like these before. Had your family, you'd never been approached over the years about telling a story about the McDonald's?
We had been approached by people who were interested in writing books, but no one that was ever interested in doing a movie. So the the thought of actually getting the real story of McDonald's out on the big screen was something that was extremely enticing.
And Jason and Corey, I mean, how involved were you guys? Did you go down to the set? Was it surreal to see? I mean, I think you can all see how much he looks like Nick. It's a little crazy.
We did have a chance. We brought the whole family to visit the set, and it was surreal to actually see a movie being made. And to be involved with the project is just something we just could never imagine.
Are you guys in the movie at all? I feel like I heard maybe
No,
you made a cameo or something.
no.
No.
Well, that.
No cameo.
A smarter producer would have thought of that, actually.
And so, where did you begin? Did you go to Robert to write the script, or did John come on board first? Or
We actually heard some pitch. Once we did sort of a graphical pitch book that kind of told the story that kind of helped entice agents and writers, and we heard pitches from a bunch of writers. And what was great about Rob Siegel, other than us being big fans of his work, was a lot of people pitched just a certain POV of the McDonald's brothers, and then Kroc comes in. And what Rob pitched that was really unique was Kroc, but from the McDonald's brothers POV. So it's sort of that character's journey, but from the perspective and the story that the McDonald brothers experienced, and that just really kind of sparked us. And then he came up with a great pitch, and from there we connected with Film Nation, and we had another project with Film Nation. We think they're just great to work with, and the best in the business. And from there once we had a script, we were lucky to get John Lee Hancock and Michael Keaton.
so, Robert, how did you come up with that idea for the pitch? I mean, you looked at the story and coming up with the idea to tell the story of Ray Kroc, but through the McDonald brothers' eyes to some extent. Did that just hit you upon reading about it?
Well, I think this is a little awkward to say with the grandchildren of the brothers right here, but I just thought most of the pitches. Correct me if I'm wrong, Don, but I think most of the pitches were told really with the McDonald brothers as the lead characters, and what I pitched was I just thought it should be told from the perspective, not from the perspective, but I thought Ray Kroc was our lead character. I just thought he was seemed like a far darker.
It's a much better idea, I think.
Well, I mean, the models, when you look at movies like, I don't mean to compare this to Citizen Kane. I actually think Citizen Kane is a better movie. No, that's not a knock again. You look at Charles Foster Kane, and in There Will Be Blood, Daniel Plainview, the Daniel Day-Lewis character, Social Network. They're all told from the perspective of the bad guy, and I just think that makes for a more interesting movie than people who are as kind and bright and wonderful as their grandfather. So I just thought that was the more interesting take.
And did you see him as a bad guy? I mean, I guess it's a little more complex than that.
Yeah, every time I watch it, I still don't. There are times I've watched the movie probably 6 times, 7 times now, and there are times I watch it. I guess it depends on my mood. Sometimes when I watch it, I hate him, and sometimes I watch it and I totally get why he did what he did. So I still actually, having written it and seen it many times, still don't quite know how to feel about him.